You make my head spin. Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show. Super late today because I was up at the farm till 4 a.m. Don't worry, that does mean we got like another 700 mega hash total today. For some reason, it just is taking a lot of work. We're getting it all done. I haven't done any vlogs or anything because I've been head down. I think we were out there for like 8 hours on Monday. And then yesterday was basically about the same. Maybe like, or not the same, a lot more. It was from like 3 p.m. till 4 a.m. So like 11 hours out there getting stuff locked in. Good note that I can give you guys is that I have the latest NB miner running at the farm on Hive OS. And it's been up for 11 hours. So I'll cover some of that with you guys. We have all the light hash rate 100% unlocks. We have LOL miner, we have BZ miner, we have G miner, we have T-Rex. They're all coming out with the 100% locks. There's a lot of data to parse through, of course, once we start trying to get those all tested. So it's going to take a little bit of time. There's a lot of other YouTubers that are working on this, though. We also had a great video from Seb's FinTech comparing shares. Now, we'll talk about that, of course. And then we have some mining news. We have Hive consolidating their shares instead of going the opposite direction. We've been talking about how the mining farms have essentially been leaning towards debt over, of course, public funding, and or through securities, through stock options, that sort of thing. And it does look like they are essentially reversing this even further, is what it's a sign of. We have inflation numbers rising 8.3% in April. That is definitely having an effect on the market, hence the, of course, title of the show. And then we have some rumors, tinfoil hats from Charles Hoskinson surrounding the Luna ordeal, and more rumors and stuff behind UST and Luna and where Do Kwon came from. So Mr. Do Kwon, then we'll talk about mining profitability. I'll show you guys the setup on the light hash rate rig. And then we'll talk a little bit about, probably a little bit about Flux and that unfortunate timing of their pairing with Luna, and regular old mining profitability for the day. So please hit that like button. I appreciate it a ton if you guys can hit the like button and share the stream out. And let's get into it. Obviously, it's a rough time. We're all here. We're going to keep going, though. Let's get into it right after a word from today's sponsor, the official sponsor of the Crypto Mining Show, Crypto.com. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Welcome back, everybody. Obviously, the crash is the number one talk. We're below 29,000 on Bitcoin. Don't worry, I'll be kind of talking about that through this show. Let's start off, as always, though, with the new miner releases. Tons of stuff getting launched. We have the new LOL Miner 1.50, the public beta. And it says Windows beta is in testing to be released here soon. So I believe At this time, it's just Linux. The changes are 100% light hash rate unlock for all light hash rate affected algorithms on LHR v1 and v2 GPUs. Required drivers are the 510.60 on Linux. It does say it will support the 510.68. I had to actually roll back to 510.60 for NB Miner version 41.5 to remain stable, just so you guys are aware. In Windows, that is going to be driver version 512.15. On other drivers, the previous 79% unlock on ET hash will be active. So I think it will be doing a driver detection, essentially, and depending on which driver you're on, it will pick which light hash rate option it will utilize, which is kind of interesting, a little different than what the other miner strategies were, which was completely stripping the previous, like, 80% unlocks, essentially. Here's some notes. The miner will unlock the cards approximately 30 seconds after the start. It says, please make sure all overclock operations are completed beforehand. And then it says, on dual mining, the LHR cards will now behave live or like full hash rate cards. This means dual mining tuning will start approximately 1 minute after the DAG build is complete. So good to see, of course, LOL Miner hopping in and getting this 100% light hash rate unlock going. Don't worry, we have pretty much everybody popping it today or yesterday or sometime over the night. BZ Miner also released theirs 16 hours ago. 100% light hash rate unlock V1. So they don't actually have a V2, which is interesting, at least as far as I can tell at this time. But they have V1. It does say it's unstable, experimental, and low overclocks. LHR unlock stability adjuster you have here. GDDR5 mem tweak, which is nice to see, and they added a pause to the end of batch files. Fixed the NVIDIA overclock, sometimes not engaging. So that's BZ Miner's unlock, obviously low on the list, but they are working on it. V1 only at this time. Then we have G Miner, which just plainly states light hash rate 100% unlock. I think that's going to be V1 and V2. The requirements are, of course, admin rights, not dissimilar from all the rest of them. This was released 3 hours ago. And then the same drivers, 512.xx for Windows and 510.xx for Linux. So pretty much it's just looking like all of the miners have essentially reverse engineered and gotten their version of light hash rate 100% unlocks going as they need to if they expect to continue, you know, being utilized by the mining community. And then T-Rex version 0.26.1. And they have the light hash rate 100% unlock as well. We already knew that this one was available through their Discord. Says everything except the 3080 12 gigabyte and the 3050. The light hash rate unlocker requires 512.xx version of the driver for on Windows and 510.xx on Linux. Now, if you are utilizing a 3080 12 gigabyte or an RTX 3050, the only miner that has the highest overclock, or not overclock, but unlock at 80% for those two GPUs is going to be NB Miner version 41.4, which we tested yesterday on the RTX 3050. You can definitely go check that out. Definitely a huge improvement, pretty much doubling the hash rate on the RTX 3050 from 15 mega hash a second previously on things like Team Black Miner, which was the highest unlocking one, up to now around 30 mega hash a second. It's 28 to 29 mega hash a second specifically. I got it tuned in the best I could, and we were looking at 79 watts at the wall. Still not fantastic, still better options out there. It does beg the question, though, what does, you know, the 100% unlock look like on the RTX 3050? You would assume it's coming soon, and at that point, you could be closer to, of course, that 40 mega hash a second on the RTX 3050 with essentially 79 watts or so. So definitely I'm keeping an eye out on the 3050 because that would be pretty impressive. The other question that a lot of people have is the light hash rate unlock real or fake? And of course, Seb's FinTech, who's really good at finding those questions and getting the video content out in a different way, or, the best way that he can, I suppose. He did come out with a video. I definitely highly recommend it. It's linked down in the description below. All I have right here right now is just his main page, which is where he basically took a light hash rate and a non-light hash rate in both NB miner as well as T-Rex miner. And this is important to note because there is basically like now a new T-Rex miner with 100%, okay? So what he did was run that and then compare shares. Now, this can't be perfect, right? So it's important to note that this is a really cool experiment, but you're gonna have variability between the miners, between the cards, how fast they're submitting. There's other variables going on here than purely just shares, in my humble opinion, which can make it a little bit difficult to determine for sure. But it does look like at the very least with the NB miner 100% unlock, you are getting a significant amount of more shares than the 80% unlock on T-Rex miner. As you can see here on the chart, the light hash rate NB miner at 100% did 277 shares. The light hash rate with an 80% unlock only did 218 shares. And the non-light hash rate 3070 did 290 shares. So is it a perfect comparison? No, not exactly. Does it give you an idea of whether or not the 100% unlock is working? Well, yes, you can tell that it is definitely working. So I thought that was a really cool video. Definitely go check it out. Like I said, it's linked down below in the description, so you can go support his channel. Let's get into the fun stuff. Hive is consolidating shares to attract more institutional investors. Now, this is going to obviously relate to the markets, what these large miners are seeing, how they're trying to get their funding, and so on. As we've been seeing over the past few weeks, a lot of the large miners that are looking for institutional investment, whether that be from VC funding or stock shares, that sort of thing, have started moving away from that for their expansion, started moving to debt. So they're taking on debt. We're seeing interest rates taking on as high as 12%, fully maturing within 2 years on some of these, like Marathon Digital, which is quite high and quite crazy. So a lot of them are hedging that Bitcoin will go up in price within the next 2 years, would be my assumption here. That being said, there's more shifts happening, and this kind of gives us that insight, right? Hive to consolidate shares to attract more institutional investors. Like we said, the crypto miner will have a 5-to-1 reverse stock split. Canadian crypto miner Hive Blockchain Technologies says it plans to consolidate its shares on a 5-to-1 ratio to attract institutional investors. The move will lower the number of its shares outstanding to about 82 million from 411 million and will be effective on May 20th, according to a statement. Quote, in speaking to shareholders at the numerous conferences I have attended in the past 60 days, it is apparent that some shareholders are finding it challenging to compare Hive to its industry peers as we have many more shares outstanding, end quote, Executive Chairman Frank Holmes said in the statement. Consolidation of shares, which is commonly known as a reverse stock split, is a process by which a publicly traded company reduces its share count and increases the price of each share outstanding. After the consolidation, price of each share will be higher and will create more visibility among large investors, as many institutional investors, mutual funds in particular, have policies against taking positions in stock priced under a minimum share price, regardless of market capitalization, Holmes noted. Quote, we believe that an increased share price arising from the share consolidation on the TSX-V and especially the NASDAQ will enable us to attract a broader range of shareholders, gain increased liquidity, and deliver long-term value to investors, end quote, Chief Financial Officer Darcy said in the release. The miner shares have plunged about 55% this year. The stock fell about 6% in early trading on Wednesday as most crypto-linked stock tumbled, with Bitcoin falling below 30,000 after the release of U.S. Consumer Price Index data for April. As always, we'll point out, just like I do every single time, the problem with investing in a stock that is related to Bitcoin is now you've exposed yourself to another point of failure, meaning not only do you have to worry about the price of cryptocurrency, but you also have to worry about the price of the stock and the company and whatever the company is doing. Obviously, this is a manipulation of the shares in purely, traditional finance security form to pump the price of the shares up to attract more people to purchase it. Will it work? I think highly doubtful, right? With the market the way it's going and trending down, I don't think that it's the best plan. I think, in fact, even though those interest rates are higher for Marathon Digital to get funding or find a way to fund for more Bitcoin miners, it makes more sense than trying to get more public funding through a security or stock options, right? So that's where that is. Would I ever suggest, and this is not final financial advice, but would I ever suggest purchasing, a stock in a mining company versus just purchasing Bitcoin? Personally, I would stay away from it. Like I said, I worry about adding in that additional point of failure. You have to worry about the company, right? Now, as the title said, clickbaity, and I guess a little FUD, right? It is what it is. We have to talk about what's going on. Bitcoin was poised to essentially prove itself as being a hedge against inflation. However, what we've been seeing here is that it is not proving out to be true. Now, does that mean it won't work out in the end? Not necessarily, but it definitely means right now what we're seeing, if we just look at it as objectively as possible, that it's not hedging against inflation. And that is basically, we can see that as we see some of the highest inflation rates ever in April. Let's get into it. Inflation rose to 8.3% in April, with monthly core CPI doubling from March. Bitcoin dropped sharply after the release. U.S. inflation slowed last month for the first time since November of 2020. A Labor Department report Wednesday showed the Consumer Price Index, the most widely used gauge to track inflation, dropped to 8.3% in April from last year, down 8.5% in March. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Yeah, I am. All right. Ignore what I said earlier. Let's get through it, though. A 4-decade high, according to the report published Wednesday. Economists had estimated an 8.1% for April. But core inflation, which excludes seasonally volatile food and energy prices, rose 0.6% from March, double the rate from the prior month and higher than a 0.4% clip that economists had forecast. Bitcoin was down 4.8% within minutes after the after the report was released, changing hands at 30,145. As you can see, we dropped down below 30,000 at 29,810 now. Crypto analysts and traditional economists alike are watching core inflation particularly closely this month, as headline inflation figures could be misleading because of a big jump in the CPI this time last year. Quote, the year-on-year numbers are going to come down almost no matter what, end quote, said Eric Winograd, Director of Developed Market Economic Research at Alliance Bernstein. Quote, that isn't particularly meaningful because it doesn't tell us what's really going on with the prices right now. It tells us what went on with the prices a year ago. The CPI saw a big jump during the spring last year from 2.6% in March to 4.7% in April, making it difficult to draw comparisons between this year's numbers. Core inflation, however, is the percentage change month over month, which is why analysts prefer looking at that data point to evaluate current inflationary pressure. Compared with inflation reports earlier this year, April's report could be less significant for traders in general as they track inflation to make assumptions about what the Federal Reserve might do to keep the inflation in check. Quote, they've already told us their next step, end quote, Winograd said. So it takes something very dramatically different for them to change that path. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has already said that it is very likely that the central bank will increase the interest rate by 0.5 percentage point at each of the next couple meetings. President Biden weighs in. Many critics blame President Joe Biden for the highest inflation in 40 years and for deflecting the blame for the current state of the economy. With midterm elections coming up in November, the president spoke about inflation on Tuesday, assuring Americans that he is, quote, taking inflation very seriously, end quote, and saying it's his top domestic priority. I like how this bugs me, because you play on that word. It basically is a way to say it's not my top priority, because I think we know what the top priorities are, and the top priorities are not domestic in the U.S. right now. Quote, President Biden and the Democrats are likely to be hard put to maintain their majority in Congress, end quote, said Scott McDonald, chief economist at Smith's Research and Ratings. An economy in trouble with a recession of near recession type money policy and inflation does not make a good tailwind. And as you can see, like we said, I think I had a little bit of a snafu. I was up late, but we're seeing obviously high inflation. We're seeing Bitcoin respond to it in a manner which was not predicted by most Bitcoin maxis. And that can be due to a lot of things. More than likely, in my humble opinion, it is due to, of course, institutional investing. So institutional money is awesome, right? When you're in a bull market and we're like, yay, this is awesome, pump it up. It's not so awesome when you're in a bear. It's not so awesome when you're dealing with inflation, because they're going to react to the Bitcoin market just the same as they do to any traditional investment. So I think that while everybody was super excited about the institutional investment, I don't think that it ended up proving out to be a positive. That's my humble opinion, not financial advice, and I'm a dummy. So that's just kind of how I read it from this perspective. Now, you guys might be aware of Luna. You might be aware of UST, which is probably not helping out the entire crypto market. Huge dumps as they try to basically fill their reserves with Bitcoin. They got rid of Luna as the reserve currency for UST, which is supposed to use an algorithm to go ahead and adjust it. Here's one thing. Anytime a tech company tells you to trust the algorithm, I'd question it. And that includes anything within crypto, right? Why is that? Well, we have a track record. Trust the algorithm for social media. That worked out real well. So you want me to trust your algorithm for a stable coin? No, thanks. Now, I wasn't ever like personally invested into Luna. The first time it hit my radar was when Flux added it to their parallel assets. And obviously, as a miner, that's the biggest thing that we have to focus on, because it's definitely affecting Flux pretty heftily. As far as proof of work coins, I think Flux has taken the biggest hit. Now, there are some tinfoil hats, so I'm not going to report this as fact. In fact, people are, I will say, upset that Charles Hoskinson from Cardano, by the way, in case you're not aware of him, shared this irresponsibly. But I think that it's a fun tinfoil hat, and I think that you should be aware of it to a certain extent, right? So by tinfoil hat, I mean that I don't have any proof that any of this is true or that any of this is accurate, but this is what's getting shared around, and it is what the, quote, word on the street is surrounding Luna, according to, of course, Charles Hoskinson. It says that BlackRock and Citadel borrowed 100K Bitcoin from Gemini. It appears in their loan book. They swapped 25K of that Bitcoin into UST. This was all done quietly in anticipation of the attack. When the time was right, they called up Do Kwon at Terra Foundation and said they wanted to sell a lot of Bitcoin for UST. As it was a large trade, they told him they didn't want to move the market and asked if he would like to buy their large block of Bitcoin at a discount for UST. Do Kwon took the bait. He gave them a huge chunk of UST, thus lowering the UST liquidity significantly. At that point, BlackRock Citadel dumped all of the Bitcoin and UST, causing massive slippage and triggering a cascade of forced selling in both assets. The real problem was BlackRock Citadel knew that Anchor, which holds a lot of Luna, was a Ponzi scheme. They offered 20% staking APY for, X's sake. And this crash would trigger more withdrawals than Anchor can repay. These forced withdrawals and selling would trigger a massive sell-off in Luna, thus further breaking the $1 peg and wrecking the market further. BlackRock and Citadel now buy the Bitcoin back cheaply to repay the loan and pocket the difference. Meanwhile, billions of longs in Bitcoin VAR were wiped out. This was pure market manipulation. So obviously pretty hefty accusations thrown at BlackRock and Citadel, as well as at Do Kwon, which is kind of the leader of Terra. And like I said, I can't necessarily prove anything other than obviously you have the loan book that you can take a look at and the swap of Bitcoin into UST. Those are two things that you can verify on the chain. So that did happen. The rest of it, what was happening behind the scenes, what the intentions were, that could be interpreted across the board differently. So I just want to make sure that everything's taken with a grain of salt, especially as this is a developing story. We have more surrounding it because basically now more is coming out about Do Kwon, the ex-Terra, and some ex-Terra colleagues are saying that essentially he had worked on another failed stablecoin. This is why you need to do your research whenever you're looking into these projects, see who the founders are, see who the developers are, see what past projects they've worked on, and so on. Unfortunately, what happens is none of this gets reported in the large media until after, after problems arise. What would be preferred is that you make these correlations and do the research beforehand, and that will be on you. It's not necessarily a failure of the publications. I do wish there was more reporting surrounding this type of stuff because I don't necessarily cover these types of topics either because we're proof of work focused. But UST's Do Kwon was behind earlier failed stablecoin. Ex-Terra colleagues say Basis Cash, an algorithmic stablecoin project founded by the anonymous Rick and Morty in 2020, was actually the work of Terraform Labs employees. Do Kwon, the CEO of Terra creator Terraform Labs, was once of the pseudonymous co-founders behind the failed algorithmic stablecoin Basis Cash, CoinDesk has learned. Basis Cash was a closely watched revival in decentralized finance circles when it launched on Ethereum in late 2020, just before the launch of Terra USD, which is UST. Terra's flagship stablecoin. Like UST, BAC sought to maintain a $1 peg through code, not through collateral. But it failed. The token of this long abandoned project never achieved its target of dollar parity. Sank below $1 in early 2021 and was trading well below 1 cent on Wednesday. Now history appears to be repeating. Over the last 3 days, UST sank precipitously below its peg, going as low as 27 cents in the early morning US hours of Wednesday. UST's depegging has shocked crypto markets and regulators alike as the once $15 billion stablecoin has continued its downward spiral. While BAC's $54.5 million footprint was far smaller in impact, it offers a historical data point for observers grappling with the feasibility of algorithmic stablecoins. Hyunsuk Kang, a former engineer at Terraform Labs, said Basis Cash was, in fact, a side project from some of Terra's early creators, including himself and Kwon. Kang ultimately left TFL to build a Terra competitor called Standard Protocol. Quote, Basis Cash wasn't tested at the moment, and we weren't even sure it would work, Kang said. Kwon wanted to just test it out. He said that this was a pilot project after doing that. Another Basis Cash builder who spoke to CoinDesk on condition of anonymity confirmed that Do Kwon and TFL employees were behind the project. Both Kang and the anonymous employee tell CoinDesk Kwon was Rick Sanchez, the pseudonymous co-founder. CoinDesk also reviewed internal Basis Cash Korea (BCK) chat logs in which Kwon alludes to himself as Rick. Kwon did not respond to CoinDesk's request for comment. Basis Cash never reached the heights of other Kwon-linked crypto projects. Its total value, locked TVL, for short, briefly peaked at $174 million in February 2021, 2 orders of magnitude below Terra's $30 billion TVL before this week's historic sell-off. Revealing the real name behind the online pseudonym, even a long discarded one, is not a decision CoinDesk takes lightly. Our default position is to respect the privacy of pseudonymous actors with established reputations under their well-known handles unless there is an overwhelming public interest in revealing the real-world identities, because you can get clicks, right? In this case, there is such a public interest as Kwon's UST stablecoin death spirals, wreaking havoc across the broader cryptocurrency market. Amid this precarious situation, investors deserve to know that UST was not Kwon's sole attempt at making an algorithmic stablecoin. Basis Cash and its promise of an algorithmic stablecoin predated Crypto Rick and Morty. An anonymous team of builders, mostly employees from Terraform Labs, according to chat logs reviewed by CoinDesk, modeled Basis Cash after an earlier project called Basis, formerly known as Basecoin. Basis, an erstwhile venture capital darling, raised $133 million before shutting its doors in 2018 over regulatory concerns. Founder Nader Al-Nahi said that there would be no way for Basis peg maintenance tokens to avoid securities designations. He shuttered the project rather than fight it out in court. But Basis's algorithmic ideals continued to float around stablecoin circles right on through to the heat of DeFi summer 2020 when Rick and Morty stepped in. Kwon and the other algorithmic stable adherents have long argued that the decentralized finance space needs a decentralized stable currency without censorship risk or central points of failure. Such an approach contrasts with that of market-leading stablecoins like Tether USDT and Circle's USDC, which maintain their $1 peg by, in theory, backing every digital dollar with their centralized treasuries. Quote, yo, D-Gens, anyone remember what Basis was? It was one of the early DeFi algorithmic stablecoins with high ambitions, but it was just shut down due to SEC-related risks, end quote, said Rick's since-deleted Telegram account in the Basis Cash Telegram channel on August 20th, 2020. Today, we're bringing Basis back from the grave. Does anybody else find it funny that they call it like base, but like if you want to be based in reality, you probably want to have the dollar peg based on the dollar and have it backed by the dollar? I don't know. I find it extremely ironic. Apparently intrigued by the early ideas behind Basis, Do Kwon directed a select group of TFL employees to resurrect what eventually became Basis Cash. Kang and other early TFL engineers say. The Korea-based project was envisioned as a way to test out the core concepts of the original Basis without falling prey to U.S. regulatory pitfalls. CoinDesk sources say Kwon deliberately distanced himself from the day-to-day operations of the project, though he proposed most of the core ideas behind Basis Cash and its underlying token model. Analogous to UST, which relies on a token burn mechanic involving its sister coin Luna, BAC relies on a bonding mechanism to maintain its $1 peg. Kwon also appeared to serve as a spokesperson for the project on Twitter and other forums under his Rick pseudonym. On its website, Basis Cash describes itself as a, quote, decentralized stablecoin with an algorithmic central bank, end quote. And in November 2020 interview with CoinDesk, Rick shared a vision for Basis Cash similar to that for UST. In the long term, we look forward to seeing Basis Cash be used widely as a base layer primitive such that there is an organic demand for the asset in many DeFi and commercial settings, he said over Telegram at the time. What are the lessons? One of the first examples of an algorithmic stablecoin to be tested in the wild, Basis Cash never found its footing. Game theory and smart contracts were supposed to regulate BAC's supply to keep it trading at the price of $1, but the token never managed to hold on to its dollar peg. Even amid Basis Cash's struggles, Kwon's main account could be spotted from time to time in the project's Telegram sans pseudonym. A user, surprised to find Terra's founder in the Basis Cash Telegram group, once asked Kwon what he was doing there. Quote, "I like studying new things, especially old things that are new again," end quote, he responded. So you do have basically the problem of in cryptocurrency, pseudonyms and anonymity, all that surrounding this. So maybe it's really, really difficult to do your own research surrounding it as far as the actual developers themselves. But what you could see here, if you research algorithmic stable coins, is like, well, maybe it's not a great idea because it's failed so many times. I'll leave that up to you guys. I'd also like to hear your opinions on algorithmic stable coins. Like I said, that kind of terminology is off-putting to me personally. We do have to talk about Ergo and SIG-USD, who basically Charles Hoskinson was tweeting about today as well. So I do want to follow kind of this up probably tomorrow at some point, taking a look at the proof of work related stablecoin that is similar with SIG-USD and how that functions and what sets it apart from this and so on, blah, 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 and kind of go from there. Now, the mining markets are awful. I believe this is one of the worst days, if not the worst day I've experienced mining Ethereum, and we even have help from Popolip and Svex. So thanks guys for donating hash rate. Yesterday, like I said, I spent a lot of time fixing a lot of rigs, getting things up and running. I got maybe all the way up to about 700 mega hash in addition to what I had currently had previously on the network. So that's great. I have a lot more cleaning up and stuff to do. I haven't been doing any sort, it's a lot of work and I'm the only person doing it. So I haven't really been vlogging it or anything because it's just very kind of mundane pad replacements. Most of the cars that I'm replacing pads on, we already have guides on the channel for. If I run across a specific card that's a little different, I'll do that. And then I may do kind of a review on some of my strategies that I'm shifting. Due to the heat, I am definitely moving towards more server focused cases with server fans to generate some more airflow. And in addition to that, what I'm finding is I'm able to start ditching the fans on the actual coolers for the cards themselves. And that's working out in a building that is typically between 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. So it's very hot in there. I'm also working on sucking some of that hot air out as we speak by removing some panels and building some makeshift exhaust fans and so on with what I have available to me. That being said, what I'm finding is removing those fans, throwing them in server cases, and just getting that airflow through with obviously the server cases having the tops closed on them is resulting in much better performance than say like an open air rig, even an open air rig with some fans blowing on them. So that's kind of where I'm moving towards personally. And I'd like to hear some of y'all strategies. Also, I'm working on like a wind tunnel design as well. Obviously, some of the problems here is going to be, frankly, spending money on those types of upgrades instead of spending money on actual cards and hardware themselves. But from my perspective, I think that we are seeing a decline in hardware pricing, and I think it will continue. We actually today, for the first time, are seeing drops in ASIC hardware pricing as well. let that settle out a little bit, get more efficient, focus on taking what I have currently and making it as efficient as possible and cleaning it all up, and then start accumulating more cards. We'll get into this once again because obviously a lot of people that are mining are like, are you getting out? I kind of expected this. I expect worse. I expect 21K Bitcoin. I expect the merge. This is all happening. So what's my strategy? Get more efficient, get more equipment. That's me personally, not financial advice. If I'm in this game, I'm in this game. I'm not able to just like dump it and go. Also, I want to see if I can do it. The entire thing surrounding this is just a huge challenge to me, figuring out how to get through the bear market that way. When we do see the inevitable bull run that happens again due to the Bitcoin halving and the traditional super cycle, I can be like, okay, so now I can prepare this a little bit better from this perspective or whatever. This is a learning process. It's the way it's going to go. And hopefully you guys get some insight from the channel as I document that entire process. But let me go ahead and refresh that. Mining profitability for the day is showing 157 US dollars at 0.067 ETH. My hash rate is dropping as it gets extremely hot out there. We were sitting around 5 gigahash. And then, like I said, Papa Lip, thanks for the donations, and Specs, thanks for the donations there. It looks like I did have a worker go offline. The 3070 went offline. Okay, so I'll have to go check that out. There's one card on there where the core is overheating. So yesterday, we did have a better day at 0.058 Ethereum payout from the 0.049 from the day previously. It is getting extremely tight. I will not lie to you guys. We are at the point of, you know, frankly, it's maybe like $1,100 after costs that the farm is making, which is not good. So I definitely am having to lean on a few things. I'm having to lean on the YouTube channel, which we've done, you know, previously tried to do that and expand the farm as much as possible. So that's not too different. Expanding the farm's getting a little bit more difficult. Obviously, if you're only generating $1,100 to reinvest, and also if it goes even lower, and I don't get some way to increase the amount of hardware that I have running on the network, we're going to have even more problems. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at, though. Let's look at the light hash rate rig too, because this one has been, I've heard a lot of people having issues with reliability on this. Now, 3080 Ti is getting way too hot in there today. So we're definitely at the point to where I am going to have to figure out what we're going to do with the 3080 Ti. This has not been modified beyond pads. It is in a server case, but I think it's sitting a little too close to the 3070. The rest of the cards are running okay. We're sitting around, you know, only like 40 mega hash a second on the 3060. I haven't tuned these all the way in though. These are kind of just basic overclocks. The important part though is that we've been up for 11 hours, right? So if you were having some issues with your light hash rate rigs in Hive OS, some suggestions is we're on NB Miner version 41.4. And then in addition to that, we've done some pretty conservative overclocks, right? The 3060, we could technically probably get up to 2600 megahertz on the memory. We could probably push the 3070 Ti further. So these are conservative, very conservative overclocks. The driver we had to downgrade to 510.6. So this is pretty much just so you guys know, you can get pretty reliable running. We haven't had any reboots or anything like that. The heat's starting to take effect out there as it is about 2 o'clock. We're at the hottest part of the day. That's when my hash rate gets pretty much the lowest. And then, like I said, we're working on that. Now, I am still mining Flux as well at about 1 kilohash a second. It's the profitability on Flux is just getting destroyed. We're getting 12 coins a day, which is equivalent to $7.74. In the parallel assets, we're doing 4.78 a day, which is $3. So for a kilohash, you're doing about $10 a day, which is not good. Which is not good. And part of the problem there, right? If we look at Flux on CoinMarketCap, is that it's down 31%, right? What caused this, right? And we have to be honest about it. And we have to hold Flux accountable for not vetting Terra at this point, in my opinion. And I love Flux. I think that for Web3, it's doing the most work as far as that goes from that perspective. But we do have to hold them accountable, like I said, for not vetting out Luna. I think that Luna partnership is what caused this. And that's a problem, right? Because all of the snapshot, all of the parallel assets, the stuff that was on Luna, it's getting destroyed. And having Flux with that partnership is really what kills it. So, I think that's a question we do ask to Daniel Keller, in particular. Hey, Daniel, what was missed here? What is the vetting process for parallel assets? And then to follow that up, what happens when Terra goes to zero? Because at this point, the likelihood of Terra going to zero is pretty high, right? We see that with basis, that sort of thing. What happens to the parallel asset? Because you're promising essentially on the network for Flux 10 parallel assets. If one of those goes to zero, what happens to that parallel asset? Does it get removed and you work on a different partnership later? How does that function? We haven't even gotten to the point of getting paid out in those parallel assets. Also, what happens to the miners when those parallel assets get released and Luna's gone to zero? Is it even possible for that to function? That may be a question for something like Miner Pool. There is a lot going on with Flux where, we're getting close to the great Ethereum hash rate migration. My plan was to put a lot of cards on Flux, and I don't think that I'll be making that move. Obviously, there is some issues going on with that network that's directly related to that. And I will probably be making different shifts personally. And we'll talk about that too, because we can look at what to mine here for the RTX 3090. Check out profitability. Obviously, it's not great. I got to reset the defaults too. Let me get that set up. Let's hit the 3090, adjust the flux out, calculate it out. You got Ethereum at $2.72 a day after power. Then you have Cero at $2.03 a day after power. Equilibria at $1.75 a day after power. Rio at $1.62 a day after power. This is interesting. Nice hash flux still pumping, $1.49 a day after power. But if you mined it directly, it's 83 cents a day after power. So that's pretty intense. I'm just saying that's intense. Conflux at $1.60, $1.36 a day after power. Ergo at $1.30 a day after power. And Z Classic at $1.22 a day after power. And Ethereum Classic at 88 cents a day after power, taking a big hit as well. Mining pool stats. We got Bitcoin, a big dip. We had a dip of about 10 exahash a second off of the Bitcoin network. So maybe we are going back into hash rate following Bitcoin. From 239, 240 exahash a second, we've had a dip now today from Monday to Tuesday of 30 exahash a second. So maybe this entire market crash, etc., will bring us back to basics, bring us back to basis point. It would be nice to see an adjustment in difficulty as well on Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin difficulty is up right now, but that's kind of nice to see, in my humble opinion. A little bit more traditional following of that. Now, Ethereum's a little different. Why is that? Because of the light hash rate 100% unlock. What are we seeing? We're seeing huge increase in the hash rate on Ethereum, 1.13 petahash a second. That's a huge increase due to the 100% light hash rate unlock. People are throwing it on Ethereum, and that is compounded by the fact that really, I think a lot of people are probably coming off Flux and Ethereum Classic. So let's take a look at Ethereum Classic. It remains the same. So I'm incorrect there, but the difficulty has dipped. Let's look at Flux. I would assume this is, yep, we're down 0.3 mega solutions a second from yesterday. I think more people are moving off of Flux right now, unfortunately. Let's take a look at Ergo. Ergo is at 15.17 terahash a second. It's had its recent drop in difficulty. And then Ravencoin. Ravencoin is at 2.67. So there you go. Mining pool profitability. Last 90 days, mining pool hub in first, flex pool in second, F2 pool in third. Last 60 days, flex pool in first, F2 pool in second, mining pool hub in third. Last 30 days, mining pool hub in first, ether mine in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 21 days, mining pool hub in first, ether mine in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 14 days, mining pool hub in first, ether mine in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 7 days, ether mine in first, F2 pool in second, nano pool in third. For the last 3 days, we have crazy pool in first, ether mine in second, and nano pool in third. And for the last day, we have ether mine in first, crux pool in second, and crazy pool in third. ASIC miner profitability. If you want to get slaughtered, you bought a KD6 at $60,000. It is now down to $23, and you don't have anywhere else to move it. That is a rough stuff. Even the Antminer L7, which was holding pretty good, closer to that $40 mark, has taken a 50% cut in mining profitability, down to $20 a day. If you mine Doge directly and not merge mining, $17 a day. Pretty blood in the water everywhere, right? Z15, 1376, S19 Pro. What are we looking at, right? S19 Pro is down to $5.96 a day after power, 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Is that finally translating into reduction of prices? Yes. Has it come down enough? No. You have a KD6 box still, or a KD box, which is the low end KD a miner at $5,700 US. You have the S19 Pro, though. We had a drop of about $290, $300. Most of the Bitcoin miners are starting to drop. S19 down to $6,900, S19J Pro down to $7,800, and so on. iPolo's still not down in price, unfortunately. And Jazz miners not really down. A10s are down a little bit. So there you go. The iPolos are not down. This is kind of where you're at, right? So prices are starting to fluctuate down for ASIC miners. I think that they will come down further, and I think that GPU pricing will come down further as well. Unfortunately, we didn't see the RTX 3050s get purchased a lot for mining, because it would almost be a hedge if you could start picking up those for like $150 or something. But we'll see. So at the end of the day, right, we are in the middle. We're in the shit, as they might say. Those who survive this and can figure it out, and hopefully we all figure it out together, or a portion of us do, as a community, I think we'll look a lot better off a few years from now, and sometime like 2024 or 2025, etc. Those who get shook out, well, I'll take your equipment, hopefully, and try to figure out how to invest more from that perspective. That's my strategy, right? Do I suggest it? Is it financial advice? No. Once again, that's my strategy. In particular, from the ASIC perspective, I still think it's like Bitcoin ASICs are bust. I wouldn't be confident personally in purchasing anything outside of Bitcoin ASICs other than the library ASICs, which are relatively cheap and don't make a ton of money, but I want to support, of course, Library and Odyssey, so that's why I would look at those personally. But that's kind of where we're at. Let's get into questions and answers. If you have a question, the super chats are the easiest to read, so I do read those first, and then, of course, from there, I'll take the @SonOfATech, which turns the message orange, making it easier to read. I want to thank Systrom for becoming a member. Also, what's going on, dude? Good to see you. Chadwick's Racing says, @SonOfATech, I just purchased a 6650 XT. Should be here tomorrow. Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Hank Moody says, @SonOfATech, your favorite GPU at the moment? I am leaning towards that 3070 Ti at the moment, but they kind of got bought up real quick. So I may be making a shift as far as that goes. We also have apparently an outlet for modified A-series GPUs. I still need to reach out to that guy. I'm interested in those. Racco says, @SonOfATech, wouldn't it be smarter to put all hash rate on one coin so we can stress test it? That will be in the preceding weeks, right? So the first week is just, let's see where everybody's going to go just naturally. And then from there, whichever one where a lot of hash rate moves, what we'll end up doing is being like, okay, so let's say a ton of hash rate moves to Ergo. We'll be like, all right, so Ergo seems to be an interest. Let's go ahead and plan another migration test in 2 weeks. Everybody move to Ergo. And that's kind of like the point of how this will function, right? Pay Me in Crypto says, @SonOfATech, from the perspective of lower electric use, wouldn't it be better to have 85 to 90% of your farm on and not overheating? The overheating problem is due to the ambient temperatures, mainly from outside at this point. Liberated Potato says, @SonOfATech, with the size of your mining operation, have you thought about installing solar panels? No. Raven Boy Crypto says, @SonOfATech, look into TXU. My power is basically free. You run crappy ASIC miners at night and get a credit for the day. Interesting. I don't know what TXU is, but I'll have to look into it. Let's see. Anonymous Miner says, @SonOfATech, Mini Z updated and finally works with Polaris. Got 16 to 17 mega hash a second on Flux. Yes, sir. I was aware of that. I'm waiting for their release on 6000 and 5000 series GPUs. Hawk Crypto Mining says, thanks for the $4.99 super chat. Says, did a video for hash rate migration. Hope it goes well. Converted to server cases, all Octo miners. Awesome. I'm not using Octo miners because they're a little cost prohibitive at this time. Let's see. Keith says, @SonOfATech, did you see Coinbase's disclosure that in bankruptcy, customer crypto might be the property of the bondholders and not the customers? No, I didn't. So does that mean... So the bondholder would be Coinbase in that scenario? Am I understanding that correctly? Rocco says, @SonOfATech, I had trouble joining the hash rate migration Discord. Can you post the link here? Yeah, I'll get that link up. 1 second. 1 second. Let me create a invite link. I think the problem is that we need to set it to never. Yeah, let's set it to never, and then I'll update the description as well. My best friend says, thanks for still doing the show today. Of course, my man. Stephen Cook with $100 super chat says, pay that power bill. Pew pew. Thanks, man. Does your farm location have a monthly fee outside of power? I assume yes, and if so, does this offset your home power cost difference? Yeah, so the home power is, well, the home power is just regular power, right? Residential here is more expensive, so I wouldn't want to install many miners out at the house anyways. And then, yes, I have basically rent, right? Essentially is what I have. Daniel Ring says, @SonOfATech, I'll trade my 3070 Ti for a 3090. I'll trade a 3080 Ti for a 3090, not a 3070 Ti. Marius says, @SonOfATech, do you still have a dual mining strategy with Ton mining coming to an end? I haven't been dual mining because of the heat. That is one thing I quit doing. Right? Raven Boy Crypto says, @SonOfATech, the TXU plan is sold our solar days and free nights. It's only available in certain areas in Texas. Okay. I'll have to look it up. Christian Jensen says, Asana Tech, is it to have 3060 Ti efficiency on 409? I don't know what the question was. Sorry. Daniel Cosio says, Asana Tech, did you try to test the release of 9.4.6? I have. And I'll still be working on a video for that. It does work. Yeah. Cool. Stephen Cook, I appreciate it a ton. That's going to help with today's revenue. Let's see. Mining Tactics says, Ask Tech, did you know Tron burned a bunch of tokens? No, I didn't see that one. It sounds fun. And Texas Ace says, Ask Tech, the TXU plan only works if you mine at night and turn it off during the day. The price during the day is really high. Got you. So you just basically run at night on the TXU plan and then you have it cycle off. That's interesting. I mean, during a bear market, that might be worth it, right? You go into a bear market, you still want to mine. You get enough to cover the rent. Mining at night only. Whenever times they allow you to, you avoid the power cost and you get some crypto. It's not a bad idea. So it could be something that could save you. Robert says, which server cases are you using? They don't sell them anymore. I had bought like 10 of them when they were selling them during the last bear market, and they're the Rosewell for you 6 to 8 GPUs. Free for 9 hours a day. Be a little bit easier if it was better. Prospector says, at Tech, have you told other YouTube miners about your hash rate migration? We did tweet at Voscoin. You didn't hop in. I think Voscoin seems to be moving away from mining in general, it feels like. Or at least into, I know he's doing his Bitcoin mining farm, but at least outside of GPU mining. Other YouTubers that are in are Red Panda Mining. Hold on. And they're in the Discord too. Rabid Mining, TechSinji, Hobbyist Miner, Vega Serpent. Who else did we have? Jake. Crap. I don't want to forget anybody. DJ Mines. So yes. System says, at Sound Attack, mining at night helps with heat as well in Texas summers, for sure. Anonymous, and to the point earlier, we could try shutting off a portion of the farm during the day, possibly, and then turn it back on at night and see if what that works out to as well. I could at least turn off, right? So we start losing about, I don't know, 200 to 300 mega hash. So we could turn off like one miner during the day and see if that really has an effect at all. Anonymous Miner says, Ask Tech, I'm having problems trying to mine Cero with the GTX 10 series. Is there a trick? I haven't mined Cero, so I don't know at this point. Yes, Brandon Coin isn't. Brandon Coin has his announcement video, and he has fair points. I feel like you have to try to do something for something that's inevitable, right? So that is my only argument with Brandon Coin there. What are we at? We're at an hour. Let's see. I'll answer a couple more questions and then call it. I am me says, last time attack Boxcoin just had new videos with Oh God a Girl and Firo main dev that proof of work coins are dead or dying. I did see that one. Roy says, at Son of a Tech, what is your opinion on Polygon Matic? It's a layer 2 solution on Ethereum, and that would be the way I would the best way for Ethereum to function, provided they hadn't screwed up their fee structure so much. For a proof of work layer 1, and then you would have a layer 2, something like Polygon Matic, etc. Polygon, I think, is going to be fine because it's still needed post merge. If we were going to go into the ETH2 setup as it was previously constructed, Polygon would be not worth anything because it wouldn't offer anything that ETH2 wouldn't have already had on the base layer. That being said, as we've talked about, Ethereum has reneged on pretty much all of the good parts of ETH2, and so I think a lot of what is needed from Polygon is still relevant. Pay Me in Crypto says, that's Son of a Tech. What I started earlier this week, I switched over my overheating rigs to Ergo. Also in Texas with the 100-degree days. Nice. Henry says, what bike do you ride? I ride a Yamaha FZ09 2014. So the year before they started adding in traction control, anti-wheelie, and that sort of thing. Because I don't like anti-wheelie on my motorcycles. Yes, you can turn it off, but it's like I test drove a 2015 and a 2014, and I was like, I think I'm going to get annoyed having to turn off anti-wheelie every single time I get on the bike. Like, give me the 2014, bro. XRP the Goat says, ask Samvatech, what is your residential electric cost down there? I pay 12 cents in Minnesota. I'm at 6.5 cents in the summer, 5.5 cents in the winter. Liberated Potato says, ask Samvatech, with a lot of news about proof of stake coins having security problems and shutdowns, do you think there is a future for such coins? We don't have a use case that proves that proof of stake functions well right now. At least from a smart contract, DeFi capable. Like, the only one that's had any throughput is Solana, and it's already gone down 7 times this year. So, is there a future for proof of stake? Potentially. But I think even the Luna situation kind of exposes a lot of problems with it as well. Not that Luna itself was proof of stake, right? But it was using algorithms to manipulate the supply. I don't know. Chameleon says, that's time of deck. What do you like on the pizza? I'm pretty basic. Pepperoni. Just a good pepperoni pizza. Mining Tactics says, that's time of deck. How do you alleviate your airflow situation? I took a panel out of my bay door. Nicholas Kane says, that's time of tech. To add the whole nice hash thing, maybe they jumped the gun and released the unlock to get 24 hours of pool fees before the market started to drop. I don't think that they could anticipate it that much. Also, what would they gain from an Ethereum Classic attack? Well, NiceHash wouldn't perform the attack. Somebody would rent the hash rate. Previously, Ethereum Classic's been attacked through NiceHash. That doesn't mean that NiceHash is coordinating the attack. It means that all the Ethereum hash rate is there and somebody wants to attack Ethereum or Ethereum Classic. And they want to attack Ethereum Classic to delegitimize the easiest coin to migrate to from Ethereum. Surefire says, Asamatech, been solo mining Flux. The dip feels bad. I think I should swap off Flux and back to ETH or go to Ergo. You know, it's going to be up to you. We talked about it earlier. There is potential, and I haven't had time, but I need to look into essentially what all was involved with the Luna snapshot, with the partnership with Luna, adding it as a parallel asset, because the reason the dip is happening so hard on Flux right now is because of that partnership, and because there was a certain amount of Flux that gets dumped into the Luna ecosystem as a parallel asset, right? And because of that, that's why you're going to see it go down. The question is what happens when Luna goes to zero? Is it inevitable that Luna goes to zero? To me, it's starting to feel like it is inevitable, and that's going to hurt Flux more and more. They made a bad decision. I couldn't have foreseen it because Luna wasn't even on my radar. I'm not going to put out judgments. It just was, if we're looking at it, hindsight 2020 basically is what I'm saying. That partnership with Luna was a terrible decision. It's going to hurt Flux significantly. It already has hurt Flux significantly. And they need to do a better job at vetting those projects. There's still going to be, 3 more parallel assets. They better be vetted very, very harshly, because this could happen again too. And that it could happen to one of them that they already have too. Who knows? Tron, because we hear Tron doing sketchy things right now. That's a parallel asset. I think it's rough, Pay Me in Crypto says, that's Tech. Do you know anything about AVAX? I thought it was compared similar to Luna, including its stable coins and crazy promises of yields. It also has a Flux PA. Yeah, we need to look at it for sure. I thought it was together. Hold on. Yeah, we'll need to look at AVAX. I'll look into it. I'll add it to the list, because we're definitely going to have to start doing some of that. 199 super chat from Pay Me in Crypto. Thank you, good sir. Killyfish says, what do you think about the future of Flux? It doesn't feel good when they make a decision like this. But everybody gets second chances. Moving forward, like I said, these projects need to get vetted out better. As far as the functionality, the use case is there, right? For Web 3.0, they're the only ones that have that. And I think that puts it way ahead, right? I think it's going to be a little bumpy here, though, for a second. What is it? I don't think AVAX got hammered. Let's look. What is it down? 30. Okay, yeah, it did. 32%. Yeah, Avalanche or whatever is down 32%. So it's getting hit pretty hard too. Paul says, Tech, Firo, Raven, Beam, and a bunch of other coins dumped about as hard as Flux. AVAX is just a proof of stake pre-mine coin. Yay for pre-mine proof of stake coins. I thought Avalanche had the same stuff as well. And then 7 hours ago, Avalanche drops 30% on fears of Terra's LFG will dump. AVAX next. Luna Foundation's guard. Yeah. Daniel Ring says, Ask Tech Coffeezilla did a video on Luna today. He is kind of a crypto skeptic. Interesting take, though. All right. Telescopium does have a good point. He says it really peels back the lid on which devs are working with which devs and why or why not. Yeah, and that's like, from the community perspective, we do have to pay attention to, you know, what's going on with these projects and when they're working together and how they function, right? Somebody did also ask, can they leave the partnership? Can Flux leave the partnership with them? And that's my question too, right? Also, like the big question is, what happens if Luna or AVAX or any parallel asset that Flux is participating in goes to zero? What happens to the parallel asset at that point, right? My assumption would be, and I don't know this for a fact, is that you have the problem of Luna goes completely defunct, everything goes to zero, which means all of the flux that was put in to Luna as a wrapped token goes away. And how does that, you know, how does Flux react to that, right? How does the price of Flux react to that? What happens there? All right, I'm calling it for now. We have more videos that will be coming out. I got to get prepped up to go get my son. I think him and I are going to go be chilling at the farm here. And I'll be cleaning some stuff up, and he'll be playing some games on the Xbox. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, notification bell down below. We will have another video released today at 6 p.m. and then post after that 9 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you're aware. And I got a lot of research to do, obviously, so I'm going to keep doing it and keep bringing you guys the show every Monday through Friday, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, unless I was up till 4 a.m. working at the farm. Then we just move it around. I will see you next Tuesday.